thing about people knowing that you are a Buddhist lay teacher in a small port-side town is that they'll text you at 5 p.m. and be like, hey, can you be the representative Buddhist clergy at an interfaith gathering, or, blessing of the pets? Yeah. And last night, my dear friend, who's the pastor at First Congregational downtown Long Beach, the one with the really big stained glass windows, she texted me. She's like, hey, we're having an interfaith Thanksgiving service at Temple Israel. And I know it's kind of close by your house. Could you just maybe pop over and be, the Buddhist clergy? And I'm like, oh, absolutely. I've wanted to go into that place forever. It's gorgeous if you've ever seen it from outside. And so I got there, and first of all, if you've never been inside, it's a Reform temple, and it's gorgeous inside and out. And the pastor is one of those guys. He had like the friendliest, staggeringly friendly vibe. I was like, this guy, he could play acoustic guitar. Rabbi Scott Fox, just a total delight of a human being. And there were all these other clergy from all these different, primarily Christian traditions. And it was so cool being able to hear these different, short kind of presentations all on the subject of gratitude. And gratitude isn't necessarily something that's called out by name a lot in Buddhist circles. We hear a lot about loving kindness, a lot about patience, equanimity, compassion, and that's totally great. But gratitude is one of those things that is absolutely there. And it's there in a few key ways. So while I was sitting there in the pews, listening to the other professional clergy talk, trying to figure out what I was going to say, it reminded me of a poem that I love that I've read to you before, but I think I might go ahead and read it again tonight. But I just wanted to share the power of gratitude. So the very handsome older gentleman behind me, he talked about his Dharma, his teachings. He says about them, they swim against the stream. They go against the way of things. They are counterintuitive in a lot of ways. And in this is their power. One of the things that is kind of counterintuitive is paying attention to completely ordinary, simple things. Like over 2,600 years of meditation practice all over the world, the primary practice for a lot of Buddhists involves things like breathing and sitting still and walking. The most ordinary, boring things you could ever think of. But when we, instead of treating them like a way to get something done, when we treat them like a locus, like a field, like a vector for insight, for calm, for noticing what's arising, they become incredibly powerful. So this same kind of thing is found in gratitude. Why? Because gratitude directly swims against, works against our negativity bias. My negativity bias. My habit of focusing on negative things, which you're not alone. That's a great thing. It's wonderful that all you can think about is the one person frowning in the room full of people smiling. Why? Because that's the person you need to worry about from a survival perspective. You are only here because your hunter-gatherer ancestors were able to survive so that you could be here. So these kind of negative, unfortunate survival adaptations that we all bring to the table have their place. At least they really did. They're great for survival and they're terrible for happiness. They make life really difficult. So the power of gratitude, directly counteracting, working against our habitual, compulsive negativity bias, where even in the brain, and I don't remember the exact study, but I'm paraphrasing, but basically to encode a negative experience is almost instantaneous in the brain. You hook up somebody to an fMRI camera, you can watch in real time negative experiences being encoded. It's so fast and so easy. And I will never forget that one time I went to that one restaurant and had that thing and it was terrible, I'm never going back again. So simple, right? Whereas positive memories actually take some seconds to encode, if we even notice them. It's very often, especially for myself, someone who considers myself a relatively hedonistic, pleasure-seeking kind of person, it's surprising how easy it is for me to remember an unpleasant interaction I had with somebody, and how hard it is for me to remember a pleasant one. Or how easy it is for me to lock into an unpleasant experience within the context of a greater day. Like, have you ever seen that? I'm assuming it's like an Instagram post where I saw it, where it said something like, "Are you having a bad day, or are you having a bad 5 minutes?" And that's like, I feel that. That's, yeah, right. So by training ourselves to notice and appreciate what's good about this moment. Like, for instance, I'm sitting comfortably. That seems completely ordinary and not worthy of my attention at all, but it is. Think of all the times I've been injured and couldn't sit comfortably, or all the people who can't, or etc., etc., etc. I can breathe easily. Think of all the times I've had an asthma attack and breathing is labored and hard. Like, there's always a counterfactual against which the present completely ordinary, boring, redundant thing actually looks pretty good. And in some ways, this could be seen as the Buddhist meditation practice writ large. This could be seen to be a kind of macro theme. Sit comfortably. Tune into the pleasure of rest. Give your body that holiday, that grace from being simply the means of conveyance of brownies to my mouth, to being a place to rest. Tune into the goodness of breath. And maybe even directly cultivate wholesome and pleasant heart states or mental attitudes. If you're anything like me, it's really easy to fall into a kind of fretful, worrying, kind of habitual swing, default mode. And it actually can seem to take a little bit of effort to be like, you know what? This moment is good. I have enough to eat. I have an opportunity to rest in a beautiful building surrounded by kind-hearted people who are supporting my practice. So, gratitude goes from being If somebody does something nice for you, you should say thank you, to being, oh, this is actually a wholesome way of living my life that I can directly cultivate and that directly works against some of those habitual tendencies of mine that really make my life hard.